She messaged me. Maybe we're rushing into this. Let's take a step back. A week before our wedding, I replied, good idea. She thought I would panic until she arrived at the venue and found it booked for a breakup party instead. I work in logistics. My job involves analyzing complex systems, pinpointing potential failures, and developing backup plans. I manage supply chains, transportation routes, and inventory. I view life as a series of projects, and our wedding was the most significant project of my life. I had spreadsheets, vendor contracts, and payment schedules all precisely organized. 150 guests had confirmed their attendance. The venue, a stunning historic ballroom, was completely paid for. The caterer, the DJ, and the open bar, all non-refundable deposits were secured. We were just a week away. The project was on schedule and within budget. My fiancée, Jessica, wasn't a logistics person. She was more about the vibe. She cared about flowers, her dress, and Instagram-worthy moments. I managed the tedious aspects, the contracts, the payments, the event structure. We were supposed to be a team. I was the producer, she was the star. I now realized she viewed me less as a partner and more as an event planner. She didn't have to contribute financially. The point of failure in our relationship wasn't something I could quantify. It was her character. The first warning sign appeared about a month ago during our discussion about the prenuptial agreement. It was a standard, reasonable document. My family owns a small manufacturing business, and the prenup was a necessary step to protect our assets. Jessica had agreed to it months prior without any fuss. But lately, her new best friend, a thrice-divorced woman named Kendra, had been whispering in her ear, telling her that prenups were unromantic and that a man who truly loved her wouldn't ask her to sign one. The text message arrived on a Saturday morning, exactly 7 days before the wedding. I was on the phone with the florist confirming the delivery time when my phone buzzed with a message from Jessica. It said, "Hey, can we talk later? I've been doing a lot of thinking and I'm feeling really overwhelmed. Maybe we're rushing into this. Maybe we should just slow down for a bit." I stared at the message. My logistics mind immediately began analyzing the situation. The timing was too perfect. 1 week out, non-refundable deposits, all paid for. Family members had already booked flights. This wasn't a genuine expression of doubt. It was a tactical move. This was a power play designed to create a crisis. She thought she could put me in a difficult position, that I would panic at the thought of canceling everything and losing tens of thousands of dollars. She believed I would plead with her, and in my desperation, I would agree to her unspoken demand to eliminate the prenup to save the wedding. It was the most blatant, disrespectful, and manipulative maneuver I had ever seen. She was holding our entire future hostage to renegotiate the terms at the last possible moment. A cold, calm clarity settled over me. There was no space for emotion. This was a logistical issue, and it required a logistical response. She was right about one thing. We did need to slow down, but permanently. I texted her back 2 words. Good idea. Then I turned my phone off. I knew a storm of panicked, confused follow-up messages would follow, and I had no interest in reading them. The wedding project was canceled. It was time to initiate a new project, one with a much better theme. I opened my laptop, pulled up my wedding spreadsheet, and changed the title at the top. It no longer read Jessica and Mark's wedding. It now read Mark's Freedom Fest. The next 24 hours were a whirlwind of decisive action. I wasn't just canceling a wedding. I was rebranding an entire event. I had a fully funded party for 150 people, and I wasn't about to let that investment go to waste. My first call was to the venue manager. "Hi, Sarah," I said, my voice professional and upbeat. "Quick update on the Miller wedding for next Saturday. There's been a slight change of plans. The wedding is off due to, let's say, a mutual agreement to part ways. However, the party is definitely still on. We're just changing the theme from a wedding reception to a celebration of new beginnings. What do I need to do to make that happen?" Sarah was momentarily stunned into silence, but she quickly regained her composure. "Okay," she said slowly. "So, same time, same guest count, same open bar package?" "Exactly," I confirmed. "Just no wedding cake, no head table, and absolutely no slow romantic songs. The DJ needs to play only upbeat party music. Think of it as a corporate event, but way more fun." I made similar calls to the caterer and the DJ, who were both surprisingly accommodating once they realized I wasn't trying to get my deposits back. Then, I opened my design software and created a new invite. It was simple and elegant, featuring an image of a broken chain. The text read, You were invited to celebrate the beginning of a marriage. Instead, you are now invited to celebrate the end of a mistake. The wedding is off, but the party is on. Please join Mark as he celebrates dodging a bullet and embracing his newfound freedom. Same time, same place. Your presence and good vibes are the only gifts needed. Let's party. I exported the mailing list from my wedding spreadsheet and sent the invite to all 150 guests, including Jessica's family and friends. The last step was to turn my phone back on. The screen exploded with missed calls and frantic messages from Jessica. What do you mean, good idea? Mark, call me right now. This isn't funny. I replied with a single final message, attaching the new Freedom Fest invite. My text simply stated, I agreed with you. We were rushing, so I've slowed things down for good. As you can see, the party is still on. You're welcome to come if you'd like, but I don't think you'll enjoy the theme. I then blocked her number. The trap was set. The invitations were sent. The party was happening. All that was left was for the guest of dishonor to make her appearance. Update 1. The week leading up to the party was likely hell for Jessica. For me, it was incredibly peaceful. By refusing to engage with her, I had stripped her of all power. She couldn't argue, manipulate, or negotiate. All she could do was watch as her plan fell apart. I heard through mutual friends that her initial reaction was disbelief, followed by anger. She tried to spread a story that I had cold feet, that I was the one who called it off. But the invite I sent to everyone, including her family, made that narrative impossible. The story was already set. I had agreed with her desire to slow down, and she was the one panicking. Her strategy, as I suspected, was to let me stew in anxiety for a few days, and then she would graciously offer to fix everything on the condition that we revisit the prenup. She expected me to come crawling back, begging to marry her. She had grossly underestimated my logistical skills and my absolute intolerance for being played. The day of the party arrived. I spent the morning at the gym, then got a haircut. I felt calm, centered, and genuinely happy. I was about to host the most expensive and meaningful party of my life. I put on a new suit, not my wedding tux, but a sharp blue one, and headed to the venue. The ballroom looked incredible. The venue staff, who were all in on the story by now, had done an amazing job. The lighting was lively, the tables arranged for mingling instead of a formal dinner, and the bar was well stocked. The DJ was playing upbeat funk music. Instead of a wedding cake, we had a massive dessert bar with a chocolate fountain. At the entrance, where the gift table would have been, there was a sign that read, "No gifts, please. Your friendship is the only thing Mark needs as he starts his next chapter." Guests began arriving around 7 p.m. The initial vibe was a mix of confusion, curiosity, and morbid fascination. But I greeted everyone at the door with a smile and a handshake. I wasn't a man in mourning. I was a man who had just been liberated. My energy was infectious. After a few rounds from the open bar, the initial awkwardness faded, and a real party began to unfold. My friends rallied around me, congratulating me for making the right call. Even some family members, after their initial shock, approached me and said, "We never trusted her." Good for you. The moment of truth came around 8:30 p.m. Jessica made her grand entrance. She wasn't in her wedding dress, but a white lacy cocktail dress clearly chosen to evoke a bridal feel. She must have expected to walk into a room filled with somber, confused guests and find me standing alone in a corner, heartbroken and regretful. She likely thought she could approach me, offer her forgiveness, and play the hero who saved the day. But that's not what she encountered. She walked into a loud, joyful, full-blown party. She saw me in the middle of the dance floor, laughing with friends. She saw people doing shots at the bar. And then she noticed the 10-foot banner hanging over the DJ booth. It didn't say, "Congratulations, Jessica and Mark." It boldly proclaimed, "Freedom Fest 2025. Her face, which had been arranged in a serene, condescending look, crumpled. This wasn't in her script. She stormed through the crowd, her face twisted with fury, and grabbed my arm. "What is this?" she hissed, her voice shaking with rage. The music seemed to quiet down as people around us began to notice the confrontation. This was the moment. I smiled at her, a calm, easy smile. "It's a party, Jessica," I said, my voice loud enough for those nearby to hear. "You said we should slow down." I continued, "This is what slowing down looks like. It looks like a great time, don't you think?" "You canceled our wedding and threw a party?" she shrieked. "I didn't cancel it. I rebranded it," I corrected her. "You tried to play a game with me, with my family, with our future. You thought you could hold me hostage a week before the wedding. I don't negotiate with emotional terrorists. So, I took your suggestion. We're done. And since everything was already paid for, I decided to celebrate my escape. So, thank you. This party is all thanks to you. I raised my glass. To Jessica, I called out to the crowd, for providing me with an excellent reason to throw the best party of the year. To dodging bullets, a huge cheer erupted from my friends. Several people raised their glasses and shouted, "To freedom!" Jessica stood there, utterly humiliated. She was surrounded by 150 people who were now fully aware of her actions. Her face was bright red, and she looked like she was about to explode. With a frustrated scream, she turned and stormed out of the ballroom, shoving people aside as she went. The DJ, a true genius, immediately played Hit the Road Jack. The crowd burst into laughter, and the party kicked into an even higher gear. The project was a complete success. Update 2. The week following Freedom Fest was a masterclass in damage control for her. For me, it was a masterclass in ignoring her entirely. My friends and family rallied around me in ways I could never have imagined. The party became the stuff of local legend. People I barely knew were texting me, calling me a legend for how I handled it. The public narrative was solidified. Jessica had attempted a manipulative power play, and it had spectacularly backfired. Her first move was to try to recover some of the financial losses. Her parents, who I believe were just as humiliated as she was, hired a lawyer. I received a formal letter demanding reimbursement for the costs they incurred for the wedding. Her $10,000 dress, the bridesmaids' dresses, the invitations, and a non-refundable deposit on hotel rooms. My lawyer, a sharp woman who had handled the prenup, laughed when I forwarded her the email. Her response was a masterpiece, short, brutal, and legally sound. It stated that since Jessica had unilaterally attempted to change the terms of the marriage agreement just a week before the wedding, she was the one who breached the contract to marry. Therefore, she and her family were not entitled to any reimbursement. The letter also kindly reminded them that I had paid for over 90% of the entire event, and that if they wished to pursue the matter, I would be happy to countersue for the emotional distress and financial losses caused by her bad faith actions. We never heard from their lawyer again. The next front in her campaign was social media. Jessica launched a classic smear campaign, posting long, rambling messages about being the victim of a cruel, narcissistic man who publicly humiliated her for having normal pre-wedding jitters. This strategy failed for one simple reason. There were too many witnesses. Over 100 people had attended that party. They had seen her storm and ready for a fight and heard my calm explanation. Dozens of people, including some of her own family members, began commenting on her posts, correcting her version of events. Her cousin wrote, "That's not exactly what happened, Jess. You wanted to slow down." A friend from college commented, "It was a really fun party, though." Her attempt to play the victim was being fact-checked in real time, and she was losing. Eventually, she deleted all her posts and went silent online. The final piece of the puzzle involved the wedding gifts. Many had arrived in the week leading up to the wedding. I enlisted my sister and a few friends to help with logistics. We spent a weekend meticulously logging each gift. Every single item was either returned to the sender with a polite pre-printed note that said, "Thank you for your thoughtful gift. Due to the cancellation of the wedding, we are returning it to you. We appreciate your understanding." Or if a return wasn't possible, the item was donated to a local charity in the giver's name, and they were mailed a donation receipt. I wasn't keeping a single thing. I wanted to start my new life with a completely clean slate. Final update. It has been 6 months since the party that was supposed to be my wedding. My life has settled into a new normal, calmer, happier, and more authentic than anything I had experienced with Jessica. The story of her downfall is one I've pieced together from various sources. After the public humiliation of the party and the failure of her legal threats and smear campaign, her life went into a tailspin. Her relationship with her parents became incredibly strained. They were furious with her, not just for the manipulation, but for the embarrassment she brought upon their family. Reportedly, they gave her an ultimatum: get a real job and start supporting herself or find somewhere else to live. Her friend group also fractured. Kendra, the friend who had encouraged her to pull the prenup stunt, distanced herself once the drama started. Other friends, seeing how easily she had lied and manipulated, began to avoid her. She became an island of her own making. I saw her once a few weeks ago at the grocery store. She looked smaller, the confident, entitled swagger was gone. She appeared tired and stressed. When she saw me, her eyes widened for a moment, and she immediately turned and walked down another aisle. We didn't speak. There was nothing left to say. My revenge wasn't about hate. I don't hate Jessica. I see her as a failed project, a case study in what not to look for in a partner. My revenge was logistical. It was about taking a situation designed to make me feel powerless and using my skills to seize complete control of the narrative and outcome. She attempted to corner me, so I rebuilt the entire room around her and then walked out the door, leaving her trapped inside. Freedom Fest was a statement. It declared to her and the world that I wouldn't be manipulated. It demonstrated that my life didn't depend on her. The greatest satisfaction didn't come from her humiliation, but from my own liberation. I took the money meant to celebrate the start of a lie and used it to celebrate the beginning of my own truth.